This song that is playing right now, I have to inform you, is from Kyle Kavanaugh, a Facebook friend of mine, a guy, a very good musician in Canada, and you can actually listen to this song on Spotify. That's Kyle, Cavanagh, very, very good musician, a very good guy. And welcome to whatever it is I'm doing here at work. No, I'm kidding. Welcome to the show. I want to thank you for anyone that's tuning in. I wanted to talk today a subject about being an introvert, because that is what I am, and I knew that for a long time. I've always been somebody that talking to a ton of people has been physically exhausting to me. I enjoy one-on-one conversation, and I enjoy deep conversation. I always find small talk to be very frustrating. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but when it comes to small talk, I always thought, like, why do people engage in it? It doesn't even seem to make a ton of sense. But basically, I realized, like, where my introversion came from. When my mom was doing heroin all the time, I would love to be reading books so I could probably avoid what was going on, you know? And so because of that behavior, I've always been very well read. I enjoy history. I used to love reading about Greek history. I used to love reading about Roman history. I used to love reading any history book. I was the nerd in class that would read the entire thing on my own, like some people would, consume a movie. I would just go into it and be in my own world. And what I have actually learned how to be more extroverted. And some people would think, like, how can you be an introvert and be a stand-up comedian? Well, a lot of comedians actually have introvert tendencies where they just, even though, here's how I explain it. I look at it like this. Yes, it seems like you're in front of a lot of people, and you are, but what you're not actually doing is you're not really engaging with them in a real way. It seems like it if you're a good comic. It makes it feel like it's a conversation, like it's a back and forth, but that's kind of the illusion that we get to do on you. It's a trick. It's an illusion of, like, that we're actually having a back and forth, but we're not. It's really, I'm leading the whole thing, and it's my brain that gets to dictate where we go next. And I kind of, I really enjoy that. I find it very fun. But the hardest part and the thing I've had to learn was how to, like, talk to people afterwards. And I used to be way more introverted until I met my best friend, Jerry Brandt, who I actually went to his wedding. He was a good dude. And what he taught me was how to get out of my shell and how to, I still don't enjoy talking to a ton of people. I've been to parties, and it can be frustrating if I especially if I feel that they're, like, not too smart. It just really it's just annoying. I'm not gonna be rude about it, but sometimes I'm just like, oh man, I don't want to talk to this person for very long. I remember I went to a party where there was actors, and I was like, oh yeah, how are you? Trying to start small talk, which is always a chore for me. But I learned, hey, you got to be a nice person and do it. And they would be like, yeah, I'm going on auditions. And I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, you want to talk about something else? Maybe like Socrates. That would be nice. But no, they don't. They don't think about those things. Not all actors. There's a lot of very intelligent ones, but these ones were really dumb. And so I just smiled, nodded, and went on my own, because I don't. If I find people boring, I'm just like, well, I'm not going to be rude to you, so I'm just going to go away from you. That's what I do. But the premise of today is how to be a more successful introvert. And the thing about introverts is they do tend to be a little more analytical. They do tend to be more thoughtful, and they do tend to think deeper. And that is something that I definitely do. And it's not always a good thing for certain jobs, Oh, another thing that made me slightly more, or learn how to be more extroverted, was I've always worked customer service jobs. And ironically, I am actually good at just talking to people, because I think the intelligence helps. When you have a wide base of knowledge, it's easy to have conversations, because you go, oh, that's kind of like this. And that's how I've always been able to do it. But forcing myself out of my comfort zone was the number one way in which I learned how. I'm still an introvert at heart, but I learned how to deal with people that are that it can be frustrating, and you figure it out, because it's what you have to do. You have to kind of get out of your comfort zone, and if you want to be successful at anything in life. And so when I would do that, I learned from customer service, and eventually I had a sales job too, where I learned how to just get people. I learned how to deal with different emotions and how to talk to people in ways that didn't frustrate them. Because even though I could be frustrated, there's no point in frustrating others, especially if you're doing sales. It's like that's just dumb. And so I actually kind of picked a career field that is good for an introvert, not just the comedy part, but the I'm a very good comedy editor. I just edited a Eddie special, and it came out very nice, and I'm very proud of the work that I did and that he did to make it really funny. Um, and I've always been really good at editing because that's a very I would say you are basically one person and you have this vision, but you still have to work with others. It's just usually a notes process, and that I figured out a career that where I thrive, you know. And another thing I realized as an introvert, I am not a natural leader. I'm not someone that will just take charge and take a task to completion. I prefer someone to um, uh, I prefer to be a support role, like a Bravo to an Alpha. An Alpha usually takes the lead. They also take the arrows. I prefer to be more of the support role. I will make sure that person has success. So I work for a lot of professional comics at my work, and I make sure that I do everything in my power to make sure that their product that they're putting out there is as good as they can get it. And I actually find a lot of joy and satisfaction in the work that I do because there's something it's so amazing. But when you put something together and you get people to, um, you make them look better, it actually is what I enjoy most because I don't want to be a star ever. I don't find that interesting. I actually find putting something together is like a puzzle where you figure out how to create something almost out of nothing, and that is the joy that I found. So for me, the way to be a successful introvert was I had to figure out what am I good at and be honest with myself. And there's nothing wrong with going. I'm not a leader. I'm not the guy that's gonna take charge on a project and just get it done. I'm someone that says if someone had an idea, I'd be like, I will work hard to make sure that your product is the best it can be. And so I think not just getting out of your comfort zone, but also being honest with what your strengths and weaknesses are is actually very important. And that is something that I always assess, and I always do not just assess my weaknesses, but also how to turn certain things that I have natural tendencies towards into strengths. And basically, that is all I have to say for tonight because it's late and I don't know why I'm up. Maybe because I just don't sleep anymore and my brain is always running. So I thank you for listening, and I hope everyone has a good night, and I hope no one was bored by the whatever the debates are, because I always get bored by those. But thank you so much for watching.